Today we're going to learn about the dinim of, a little bit of the dinim of Kriyas HaTorah, of Torah reading. Now, there's a lot of things. In fact, there's a very interesting question that poskim discuss. When you open the Aruch Kodesh, do you open it right to left, or do you open it left to right? How are you supposed to open? And there's two different, there's brought down customs. Our custom is open from right to left. In other words, you open it this way, not this way. That doesn't mean if you did it's not kosher. But I mean, there's different customs how to do it, left to right. Our custom is to go from right to left. That's how you open the Aruch Kodesh.
Why, if you have two of them?
What?
You have two of them.
So then you open it this way.
No, some people take it both of them to the same side.
Does it mean that you take the thing from the right, that's chesed, to the...
I don't know.
I think what he's saying is sometimes you have two parts.
I answer what he said.
So I guess you open that like that.
Yeah, there's no other way of opening it.
No, because I saw people saying, no, you have to take both of them to the same side.
You know, there's something called common sense, which is very uncommon. Yeah, okay. Now, when you carry the Sefer Torah from the Aruch Kodesh to the bima, do you go on the right side of the bima, or do you go on the left side of the bima? So it's interesting. Everything is halacha. Halacha says, in Kitzur brings it down. When you take the Sefer Torah from the Aruch to the bima, you go on. Don't forget, this is east. This is south. This is north. Right? This is north. This is south. So it says like this: you carry it to the Shulchan
From the north.
from the north. Going back, you go from the south. This says in Halachos. In other words, from here you take the Sefer Torah, you'd go this way, put it down on the bima. Taking it back, you go this way.
So what happens when the Aron is, let's say, if somebody in Be'er Sheva, the Aron is on the north?
So then you, whatever way. Also, when you hold the Aruch Kodesh, let them figure it out. And then you hold the Sefer Torah, you hold it on your right side.
Yeah.
You hold the Sefer Torah is on, that's because right is more important than left. And there's also a din that whoever, there's a mitzvah of a Sefer Torah, whenever a Sefer Torah goes by, you have to accompany it at least with your eyes. Some people say you actually accompany. You can't have the whole shul accompanying it. 1,000 people in a shul accompanying a Sefer Torah is going to be a madhouse. At least with your eyes. In fact, the Rebbe Taka used to follow the Sefer Torah with his eyes. When they, after the Chazan was taking the Sefer Torah to the bima, so the Rebbe would stand there, face that direction, and watch the way the Sefer Torah is brought, until the Sefer Torah is put down, and then he went back to the Chumash or the Siddur or whatever it was. Now, B'chlau, when the person, you have to stand when the Sefer Torah walks by, the minhag is to kiss the Sefer Torah. Now, I've heard from a number of people that a lot of times, people want to use a Siddur to kiss the Sefer Torah. They use the Siddur. That's really not respectful to the Siddur, because it depends why you're using the Siddur. If you're using the Siddur as an extension cord, that means, the Sefer Torah is there, and I can't reach it with my hand, so I'm going to take a Siddur, now I'll be able to reach it. So that's disrespectful to the Siddur. A Siddur is not an extension cord. If you're doing it because you want to get, but the best thing is either with the talus or with your mouth or with your hand even to touch the Sefer Torah and do it. Good. Now, in many circles, Shulchan Aruch says there's a custom in many circles that whoever gets an aliyah puts on a talus, even if they're not normally wearing a talus, or let's say there's a Torah reading at Mincha, like Shabbos Mincha, or whatever it is, they would put on a talus. Our custom is not to. We don't put on a talus unless you're wearing a talus, but otherwise you don't wear a talus.
If it's shachrit and you're learning by the Torah for somebody, but you daven already, do you put the talit or you don't have to?
No, you don't have to. Now, what?
It's not married. Sometimes I see Bachman putting all this.
Where?
When they get it.
On Shabbos or the weekday? Officially, the Rebbe writes that our custom is that you don't put on a talus for aliyah. But as I mentioned many times, there was a bacher that was learning Shabbos in 770 by the Rebbe's minyan, and he was told by the Rav there to put on a talus.
So he did.
He did. He wore a talus during the Kriya. So it depends. It's brought down in Sfam like this. A lot of shuls, you see, during the week it doesn't matter because it's not a big crowd. It's not so formal. But in a lot of shuls where the custom is that when you get an aliyah, you put on a talis. So then the minig is you put on a talis. You don't make a bracha on it, but you put on a talis because it's going to cause. Because a lot of shuls where you have people that are like they have to wear a talis. They think it's not kosher shul if you don't wear a talis. So then, not to make a machlokes, you wear a talis. If it's a bachrim's minion, they don't wear a talis. Again, in yeshivas, the Litvish yeshivas, when they have a bachrim's minion, they have the guy that lanes puts on a talis, the guy that gets an aliyah puts on a talis. Next thing is like this: when you get an aliyah, you call up to the Torah. From your spot, you go the shortest way to the aliyah. In other words, whichever way is shortest, that's the way you go to your aliyah. When you go back, you go the opposite way. Because then, unless the Sefer Torah is going back that way, then you follow the Sefer Torah. Okay, next is like this. The Baal Kodesh opens the Sefer Torah. Hey, what?
About that, you said that you always go from the right side.
Which right side?
When you leave the
When you leave the Sefer Torah, you mean an aliyah?
Yeah.
When you leave an aliyah, it says in Shulchan Aruch, you go the longer way. But if you're following the Sefer Torah, and the Sefer Torah is going this way, then you follow the Sefer Torah, otherwise it's disrespectful.
But don't you always have to go from the right side of the...
Not necessarily. You go the quickest way. That's the chazan carrying the Sefer Torah.
Better when you finish.
Okay. So then, when you get an aliyah, you go up the shortest way to show that you're running to do the aliyah. And when you go away, you go from the longer way. Now, the custom is that the person that has an aliyah stays there on the side until the next person finishes their aliyah. Meaning, let's say if you have shlishi, so they call up a guy for Revi. When Revi finishes his aliyah, so then the guy from shlishi goes back. When the guy from chamishi finishes aliyah, the guy from Revi goes back to his place. Okay, next is like this. You open the Sefer Torah, you show the person the place. And here there's a lot of different concepts. In many places, they show them the place. In many places, they show them the place. They don't take the talis and touch and kiss it. They don't even do that. I'll explain why in a second. They just see where the aliyah starts, and then they'll make the brachas. They won't even touch the Sefer Torah. Why? Because there are many poskim that hold you're not allowed to. Why do they hold you're not allowed to? They write, in fact, if you do it on Shabbos, you might be transgressing 3 sins. You might be transgressing three sins. Number one, if you do it on Shabbos, sometimes people take a talis, and this also, that's for sure according to all opinions. When you take a talis and you touch the place, you don't rub it. You just touch it. And our custom is beginning, end, beginning, or whatever. Yeah, that's what you touch. But you don't rub it, because poskim, right, that was the problem. People used to take the talis, instead of just touching it, they would rub it, and therefore you rub off the ink. That can invalidate the Sefer Torah. Plus, a lot of times you could be doing it on Hashem's name, so you're erasing Hashem's name, and it's desecration of Shabbos, because you're erasing letters in Shabbos. So therefore, because of that, a lot of people, they don't even touch it at all, and as many people that do will touch the empty space in between the columns, on the empty cloth and the empty parchment. Our custom is we do touch the Sefer Torah, but you don't. In fact, our custom is to show the beginning and the end of the aliyah, because then you know exactly what you're making a bracha on. And this is especially important, as we mentioned. Oh, no, it's still time. I'm getting 5:28. We mentioned many times, years ago, I'll give you an example. In the Mishnah Megillah, it says you can add on to aliyahs. Shabbos, Yom Tov not, but Shabbos during the week not. Shabbos, the Mishnah says you're allowed to add aliyahs. You can make, instead of 7, you can make 30, 40, like many people, they keep going, especially if they sell it. Especially if they sell it, they keep going to make more money. The Rebbe writes you shouldn't do that. Emphatically, the Rebbe is based on the Tshuva to Tzemach Tzedek. The response in Tzemach Tzedek says the following: it's a Mishnah that says you can add aliyahs. The Mishnah says you can add aliyahs, but the Mishnah is talking in those times. in those times, I mean even afterwards, there was no such thing as a Torah reader. There was no such thing as a Baal Koreh. Every person then was educated in how to read. So therefore, you called up a guy for an aliyah, he read his aliyah. You called up the next guy, he read his aliyah. You didn't need anybody reading the Torah. Everybody read their aliyah. In fact, by the Yemenites, they still do like that in many places. It's Yemenite. They do like that because that's the way the old custom was. They all knew, they knew Chumash very well, and they knew the vowels, and many of them even knew the singing, the trop, the ta'amim. So that's what would be done. But nowadays, Tzemach Tzedek writes that we have a person reading the Torah, not the person himself. So he says, then you're not allowed to add aliyahs. So therefore, the Rebbe writes, even like before Yud Shvat or Gimel Tammuz, or those times you get a lot of people need aliyahs. The Rebbe said you don't add aliyahs, you just read the Torah many different times. That's what you do instead of actually adding aliyahs that you don't do. By the way, it's interesting, if you do add aliyahs, normally a Kohen has to get Kohen, a Levi has to get Levi. Maftir, anybody could get Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. The 7 aliyahs, meaning the 4 aliyahs after Kohen, Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, Shishi, Shvi, those 5 last aliyahs, only a Yisrael can get. What happens though if you add aliyahs, the last aliyah you're adding, which is called Achrein, the last aliyah, that a Kohen or a Levi could get. That a Kohen or a Levi are allowed to get. But when normally,
When you're adding?
When you're adding, but let's say you're adding 5 aliyahs, and you have to also, when you add aliyahs, by the way, you have to know where you're allowed to start and stop. You can't just stop wherever you want. There's halachos where you could stop. It has to be 3 psukim, and it has to be at the end of a thing. So then the din is, so then the Tzemach Tzedek says, because of that, you're not allowed to add aliyahs because now there's one person reading it. But because of that, by the way, the din is, when you get called up to the Torah, you're supposed to, the one that gets the aliyah, is supposed to read along quietly with the Baal Koreh, with the Torah reader. Because really, you're supposed to be doing it. The guy's just doing it, so why did they start this Baal Koreh? For a very simple reason. Most people can't just get up there and read an aliyah without practicing for a year. So not to embarrass anybody, and some people yes, some people no, starts a whole fight, and therefore, so they made an institution in halacha, there's a guy reading the Torah, and that's it. Nobody else could read it. By Ashkenazim, they don't let usually somebody to read his own aliyah. Because then this guy yeah, this guy not, it starts a whole, it starts a whole fight. But because of that, you also, like we said before, you shouldn't add aliyahs. And there's a lot of dinim that apply because, really the Baal Koreh is not supposed to be reading. The person himself is supposed to be reading, so then dinim like that.
I have a question on something you said before.
What?
When the Shlishi on regular day stand and they're going to say the Kaddish and the Akba, does he have to stay until after the Akba next to the Torah?
No, I can go after Kaddish. Many people stay until after Hagbah. The Rebbe would wait until after Hagbah. Sometimes he waited until the end of Gli when they brought the Sefer Torah back, depending what was going on. What?
Why is it that the Alter Rebbe says if there's no Kohen, the congregation that gives the first aliyah to Levi, Tova Alav Bracha?
It doesn't say Tova Alav Bracha. It says Marich no Yom V'Shneisa. You live long.
The whole congregation lives long? Or
I don't know.
what's the reason? It's just a Kabbalah?
Because a Levi is also Choshuv. So,
So why should the congregation get an extra bracha for doing it?
because they're honoring the
It's
Levim.
not necessarily a halacha. It's just-
Al Rebbe brings it down in Shechnorach.
I know it says it. It says it's a nice
Not in Kriyas HaTorah. Al Rebbe doesn't have a case. It says in the Dinam V'Chas HaMazon.
He says it's a nice thing.
No, it says it's a proper thing to do because Marich and Yom V'Shneis, if you live longer. Okay,